It now gives me great pleasure to invite another of Religions for Peace's key leaders, Cardinal Peter Turkson, who has guided the drafting of the Pope's climate change encyclical Laudato Si on care for our common home and heads the Vatican's Pontifical Office of Justice and Peace. Cardinal Turkson is a leading light to many of us working in the interreligious, multi-religious development, humanitarian, and human rights space. Cardinal Turkson, it is a deep honor to be able to offer you, please, the opportunity to give us your wisdom.
Okay. Thank you, Laudato Jesu Christo. I want to thank the organizer, president of Iceland, and all the dignitaries for having hosted this event. As you may know, shortly after, and we've listened to the Patriarch Bartholomew a short while ago, but shortly after he had described ecological damage in terms of sinfulness, Pope Francis wrote his encyclical letter, Laudato Si, Care for Our Common Home, to address the current ecological crisis, both natural and human. Not only is our environment deteriorating globally, little effort is also being made to safeguard the moral conditions for an authentic human ecology, our own conditions making our own lives possible. So the destruction of the human environment, he observed, is extremely serious, not only because God has entrusted the world to us humans, but because human life itself is a gift which must be defended from various forms of debasement. So rendered fragile by the misdeeds of the human person, for which we've called all of this Anthropocene, the Pope exhorts the human family to listen to the cry of two fragile elements, the cry of the poor and the cry of the planet, the earth. And in calling for this, put a central emphasis on listening to this would be a way of ensuring the dignity of the human person and the well-being of creation. Now, this event is being organized to also underline and to support the SDGs. So let me also recall the few words of the former Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, who also, working on this, had observed that since the meeting of the UN Environmental Group in Johannesburg in 2002, the United Nations has also consistently related the question of the environment with the question of human development. The two go together. And so the current SDGs are, according to the Secretary General, a human dignity narrative that leaves nobody behind. Accordingly, the invitation is that we do everything we can to protect the Mother Earth creation, the earth, our home, as well as human life itself. And so when Pope Francis wrote his encyclical, he underlined one single fact: the natural environment and human environment put together create what we call integral ecology. We cannot successfully look at natural environment and safeguard it without looking at human environment. Neither can we pay attention to human environment at the loss and at the disregard of the natural environment. So integral ecology then has us to unfold a new sense of Christian humanism, the human being invited to consider himself seriously in the midst of the created unitary system. And so the interconnectedness of everything is what we're thinking about and what we gathered here to celebrate. So the way we interact with the natural world is deeply related to the way we interact with other human beings. And if we cannot listen to the cry of creation from the abuses we afflict on it, neither can we listen to the cry of the poor ones in our midst who cry to us. So we then have to come to a decision about the natural environment. Any decision that we take about the natural environment is necessarily an ethical decision. And this is inescapable. And we need to look at all of that together. It means that we cannot simply look at technology and what it does to them, what it does for us, but we should also consider the implications of technology on our environment. And so it is that in the open lines of Pope Francis talking about this, he refers a lot to what he called the gospel of creation. And the gospel of creation is his way of taking us back to scriptures and having us understand what the natural environment is in terms of scriptures. We just listen to the Ayatollah take us to the Quran to explain this for us. One can do the same thing with scriptures and have the scriptures underline the necessity of this. On account of shortness of time, I just refer to two elements. In the book of Genesis and scripture, when God introduced Adam, the human person, into the garden, he gave him two charges: cultivate and keep. Avad, really small. Both expressions are very significant because to cultivate, avad, is incidentally also the same word for worship, to render service. It's also avad, from which I think, Eved in Arabic, the son of a servant or whatever, is related to that. So to work the land is also the way of rendering service, as it were, to God. So our work is not a forensic, disinterested activity that we exercise. It's a way of rendering service to the Lord. Then the second element entrusted to human charge is to keep, lishmor. And to keep is the same thing, as it were, of safeguarding the well-being of a relative. Interesting is that when Cain killed his brother Abel, and God asked him, "Where is your brother?" the answer of Cain is, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Same word. So keeping the earth is almost the same as keeping a brother. And therefore, the care for creation is not something extraneous to the human life and human environment. It's our way of cherishing everything as if we related to the earth as a king. This happened thousands of years before Francis of Assisi, who then started singing the song, Brother Sun, Mother Earth, related everything in creation in terms of kinship terms. But the idea is very basic. We cannot treat the elements of creation as if they are unrelated to us in a very forensic and abusive way. It is our life that we treat. So with all of this, at this meeting, probably the challenge then that we can come to is essentially two. That's why we all gathered together. The moderator told us about 600 people online listening, and we religious leaders are gathered here sharing thoughts and ideas. So first thing is that we need to dialogue. We need to come together to share the wisdom of our traditions and see how the collective wisdom of our faith traditions can push us forward and help us protect and guard creation. The second thing is to develop a sincere sense of leadership. Leadership is something that is very crucial and necessary if we're keeping through all of this. Pope Francis says in the encyclical Laudato Si, the problem is that we still lack the culture needed to confront this crisis. And we lack leadership capable of striking out new paths and meeting the need of the present with concern for all and without prejudice towards coming generations. Ayatollah just invited us to get our leaders to commit to the Paris Agreement and all of that. That's what the Holy Father is also talking about. Beside multilateral discussion or dialogue in our case, the one thing that's also important to do is to develop a very genuine, sincere type of leadership that can pull us through all of this. And so, my dear friends and brother religious leaders gathered for this event, through our own collective wisdom, the collective wisdom of our various religious faiths and tradition, let that be a force that propels and drives us towards genuine concern for creation. And then doing this, as almost we refer to ourselves as religious leaders. Let this title lead us to exercise true leadership, leadership of service, leadership of care, maintaining the earth, working towards its well-being so that it be able also to serve humanity. As was observed and has been observed, we receive the earth as a garden. And a garden is a garden because we care for it, we hoe it, we water it, and we take care of it, so it's a garden. When we pay attention to the earth, we maintain it as a garden. The moment we subtract attention from the earth and abuse it, it becomes a wilderness. So let us receive the garden earth that God bestowed on us, always as a garden and never as a wilderness because of our neglect and because of our abuse. I wish this meeting then great success for all the discussion that will take place in this next 3 days. And may God bless our discussion, sharing of views and attention. Thank you.